100 million people across Europe could not afford to adequately heat their homes last winter. Not in a developing country. Not a century ago. Last winter. And right now, quietly and visibly, that number is growing again. If you ever looked at your electricity bill and felt that slow, creeping dread, the one that makes you hesitate before turning up the thermostat, then this video was made for you. Because what most people think is a temporary spike, a post-pandemic blip, a side effect of one war, is actually the beginning of something much bigger. And the worst part? The forces driving this crisis are accelerating. And most of the decisions that will determine how bad it gets have already been made. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what's coming, who it will hit hardest, and the practical things real people are already doing to protect themselves. Let's start with a woman named Elena. But before we dive in, if you're new here, hit the subscribe button and leave a comment. I subscribe. And I'll personally welcome you into the family. With that said, let's get started. Beat 2. Elena's story. Elena Vasquez is 67 years old. She spent 35 years teaching primary school children in Seville in the south of Spain. Beautiful city. Hot summers. Cold winters. When she retired, she had a modest pension, a modest apartment, and what she thought was a manageable electricity bill. Then 2021 happened. Then 2022. Then 2023. Her electricity bill tripled. Not doubled. Tripled. I want you to picture this. A retired school teacher who spent her entire career educating children, sitting in her own apartment in January, wearing gloves indoors, rationing her heating because she was terrified of the bill at the end of the month. That's not a statistic. That's a human being making impossible choices. But here's what makes Elena's story cut deeper. Her neighbor, an 80-year-old man named Manuel, didn't ration carefully enough. He turned the heat off entirely one January night to save money. He was found the next morning. Elena eventually discovered a community energy program that helped her cut her bill by nearly 40%. We'll talk about that later. But her story is not unique. It's not even unusual. It is happening on 3 continents right now, today. And here's why it's getting worse, not better. Beat 3. The supply squeeze. In February 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine. Within months, Europe lost access to approximately 40% of its pipeline gas supply. Overnight, 40%. Countries scrambled. Germany, which had built its entire industrial economy on cheap Russian gas, was suddenly paying 6 to 10 times more for liquefied natural gas shipped in tankers from Qatar, the US, and Australia. But here's the problem. There are only about 700 LNG tankers in the entire world, and demand has more than doubled. Think about that. The world's entire supply of these specialized ships, every single one of them, can't move enough fuel to replace what Russia used to pipe directly into Europe. The Oxford Institute for Energy Studies put a number on the gap. The world needs an additional $4 trillion in energy investment just to get through to 2030. $4 trillion. Here's how I want you to picture this. Imagine trying to fill a bathtub while the pipe is broken and the drain is blocked at the same time. You can run the water as hard as you want. The tub is still not filling. That's global energy supply right now. But that's just one side of the equation. What's happening on the demand side is, somehow, even more alarming. Beat 4. The demand explosion. You probably heard about the AI boom. What you might not know is what it costs in electricity. A single query to a major AI language model uses roughly 10 times more energy than a basic web search. And in 2023, Ireland's data centers alone consumed 21% of the country's total electricity, and that number is climbing every quarter, according to AirGrid, Ireland's grid operator. Now multiply that across every country that hosting the data centers powering our AI revolution. Then add electric vehicles. 40 million new EVs are expected to hit roads every year by 2030. Each one needs charging. And most of the world's electrical grids were designed in the 1960s and 70s. They were never built for this. But here's the twist that almost no one sees coming. Wait, what? The clean energy transition that's supposed to solve the crisis is actually making it worse in the short term. Here's why. When you shut down a coal plant, which is what every government is racing to do, you remove what's called base load power. That's energy that's always on, always reliable, day and night, whether the sun is shining or the wind is blowing. Solar and wind are extraordinary, but they're intermittent, and the battery storage technology needed to replace baseload 24/7, it doesn't exist at scale yet. So right now, we're dismantling one system before the replacement is ready. And this creates a window, a dangerous window, where the gap between energy supply and demand will be at its widest. That window opens around 2026. But before we get there, let me tell you about James. Beat 5, James' story. James Okafor is 54, a factory worker in Detroit, Michigan. Makes about $48,000 a year. A year ago, he was proud of his decision to buy an electric vehicle. Lower fuel costs. Better for the environment. Smart financial move. Then his electricity bill climbed 34% in 12 months. And the grid in his neighborhood, which is 40 years old, started having brownouts. 3 or 4 times this summer. Lights flickering. Machines stopping. His neighbor's medical equipment shutting down. James told me, "I did everything right. I made the responsible choice. And somehow I'm still getting squeezed." He eventually joined a community solar cooperative, where neighbors pool resources to share locally generated solar power. His bill dropped significantly. His neighbor, who couldn't afford the upfront costs, didn't benefit. That gap between who can access the solutions and who can't is a quiet injustice at the heart of this crisis. And here's the structural reason that gap exists. Beat 6, the grid, the invisible choke point. Here's a fact that should make you stop and think. In the United States alone, there are over 2,000 gigawatts of renewable energy projects waiting to connect to the electrical grid. 2,000 gigawatts. That's enough to power the country twice over. You know how much of it was actually connected in 2023? 21 gigawatts. According to the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, the average wait time to connect a new renewable project to the grid is now 5 years, sometimes more. The problem isn't that we don't have clean energy. The problem is we can't get it from where it's generated to where it's needed. It's like having a warehouse full of food, stacked floor to ceiling, and the door is locked and nobody can find the key. The American Society of Civil Engineers gave U.S. electrical infrastructure a grade of C- in 2021. 70% of the grid is more than 25 years old. It was built for a different era, a different demand pattern, a different world. Europe isn't doing much better. The European Network of Transmission System Operators identified 14 critical bottlenecks in 2023, points in the continental grid where power simply cannot flow fast enough to meet demand. That's when things got worse, because fixing a grid takes years. And the people making decisions about it, they're caught in a geopolitical chess game that's rewriting the rules of energy every single year. Beat 7, the geopolitical powder keg. 20% of the world's oil, 1 in 5 barrels, passes through the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz is 21 miles wide at its narrowest point. If that choke point is disrupted through conflict, blockade, or accident, energy markets don't just spike, they seize. That's a single point of vulnerability for the entire global economy. Meanwhile, China is still building 2 new coal power plants every single week, according to the Global Energy Monitor's 2023 report. They've committed to peak emissions by 2030. But right now, they are burning more coal than the rest of the world combined. And here's the detail that will make you look at your solar panel differently. The minerals required to build the batteries, the solar panels, and the wind turbines are supposed to replace fossil fuels, lithium, cobalt, rare earth elements. China processes approximately 60% of the world's supply of these materials. Every clean energy future runs through a supply chain that one diplomatic crisis could sever. We talk about energy independence, but for most of the world, we are more dependent on centralized, fragile supply chains than ever before, just for different things. And there's one more factor almost nobody in the mainstream conversation is talking about. Beat 8, the hidden danger. Energy poverty is not just a humanitarian problem. It is a security problem. The World Health Organization estimated in 2022 that cold homes people can't afford to heat, contribute to approximately 68,000 excess deaths in Europe every winter, more than traffic accidents. More than many diseases, we spend billions researching. And when energy prices spike fast enough, something else happens. France's Yellow Vest movement, which paralyzed the country for months, was ignited partly by a fuel tax increase. Sri Lanka's government collapsed in 2022 amid fuel shortages and blackouts. Pakistan experienced 20-hour daily power cuts that devastated its economy and triggered widespread civil unrest. An IMF working paper published in 2023 found that a 10% increase in energy prices correlates with a 3.4% increase in civil unrest events globally. These aren't isolated incidents. They're a pattern. Energy instability doesn't just raise your bill, it raises the temperature of society itself. So, what do you do with this information? Because this is where most videos stop. They terrify you and leave. We're not going to do that. Beat 9. Priya's story. Let me tell you about Priya. Priya Nair is 41, runs a small textile business in Pune, India. For years, she lived with rolling blackouts, sometimes 6 hours a day, machines stopping mid-cycle, orders delayed, clients walking. 18 months ago, with help from a government subsidy program, she installed rooftop solar panels and a 10-kilowatt-hour battery storage system. Total cost, $2,800 after the subsidy. Today, she is energy independent during daylight hours. She sells excess electricity back to the grid. Her income is up 22%. She told me, "The grid failed me for 15 years. Then I stopped waiting for the grid. The solution exists. The technology is real. It works. People around the world are using it right now to protect themselves from exactly what's coming. The problem is access, cost, knowledge, and infrastructure that supports it. But here's what's changing. Beat 10 real solutions. Let's talk about what's actually working. Not theory, not policy white papers. Real things right now. Virtual power plants. In Australia, a network of 50,000 households has pooled their rooftop solar and home batteries into what's essentially a distributed power station. During peak demand, the grid draws from this network instead of firing up expensive, polluting gas peakers. The households get paid. The grid gets stabilized. Studies show this approach reduces peak grid strain by up to 30%. Demand response programs. Many utility companies in the US and Europe will pay you real money, hundreds of dollars a year, to shift your energy use to off-peak hours. Running your dishwasher at 2 a.m. instead of 7 p.m. sounds minor. At scale, across millions of households, it changes everything. Heat pumps. The International Energy Agency calls heat pumps the single fastest lever available for reducing household energy costs right now. They are 3 times more efficient than gas boilers. In the right climate, they can cut your heating bill in half. Community energy cooperatives. There are over 6,000 of these across Europe, according to RE Scoop, serving more than 1.5 million households. Neighbors pooling resources to own and operate local energy generation together. No utility company. No middleman. The people who are winning this crisis are not waiting for governments to fix infrastructure. They're acting at the neighborhood level. That shift in mindset, from passive consumer to active participant, is the most important energy decision any of us can make right now. So let's look at the timeline. By 2025, several European nations will face renewed supply shortfalls as the emergency LNG contracts signed in the panic of 2022 begin to expire. Prices will rise again, possibly sharply. Between 2026 and 2027, the North American Electric Reliability Corporation, NERC, has forecast that 12 U.S. states face elevated risk of grid insufficiency. In plain English, rolling blackouts. And by 2030, the International Energy Agency's World Energy Outlook projects that electricity demand across G20 nations will exceed current grid capacity unless $1.7 trillion in grid upgrades are completed in the next 6 years. That is the number that matters. $1.7 trillion in new grid infrastructure in 6 years. The world is currently not on track to meet it. That doesn't mean it's hopeless. It means the window for action, individual action, community action, political action, is right now, not in 5 years. Now, here's where I want to leave you. The energy crisis is not coming. It's here. It arrived quietly, spread unevenly, and is now accelerating in ways that most mainstream coverage is dramatically underestimating. The people who will be most protected are not the ones who waited for someone else to fix it. They're the ones who understood what was happening early, made practical decisions with the information they had, and built resilience in their homes, in their communities, in their energy habits before they had to. Elena found a way. James found a way. Priya built her own way. You can too, but I want to know where you stand. If a 72-hour blackout hit your city tomorrow, would you be ready? Or would you be completely dependent on a system that's already showing cracks? Tell us in the comments. And tell us, what's the one thing you'd change to prepare? Because in our next video, we're looking at the countries that are actually winning the energy crisis, places that cracked the code everyone else missed, and the single policy decision that separates them from the nations that are falling behind. Hit the notification bell, because that one's coming soon. And you don't want to be the last to know.